Welcome to Idaho Media Showcase. At Idaho Media Showcase, we explore all facets of media production throughout our beautiful state of Idaho.
Oh, hello. My name is Lance Townsend. I'm the host of Idaho Media Showcase, and we're here in the Modern Hotel Lounge in beautiful downtown Boise for the reception for the premiere of the new motion picture Redemption. In just a minute, this place is going to be full of producers and writers and stars and actors and everything. People are all involved in the production, and because you're a viewer of Idaho Media Showcase, you're invited to come with us. So let's see who shows up, shall we? We're here with John Freeman in, which is now called Redemption, is it our movie, right?
Yeah, Redemption. Yeah.
And we just found out it's going to have a national release, and also in here in the Rocky Mountain West starting
April 6th.
So what is it like? You're coming in basically a newcomer as an actor.
Absolute newcomer.
These, like big stars have been in movies forever, and
I know.
How did you deal with that?
Like it was a gift, you know, which it really was. It was, I mean, when I tell the stories to other actors or people who want to be actors, they're amazed because, I mean, what literally happened to me was I went from nowhere to I sat down on the set for 6 weeks and they just rotated. You know, I kind of was the one who stayed there, and they would just bring in one actor after the other, and they would overlap. Like, you know, first I met Margot, which everybody should get to spend a few days with Margot Kidder. It's amazing. And then Barry overlapped, and and Larry came in, and John Grise came in, and David came in, and it was an education you couldn't buy for any money. And how I dealt with it, I think being a cowboy is pretty good background for being an actor.
Why is that? In what way?
You know, on a lot of levels. I think cowboys are really grounded people that see a lot of, you know, stuff happens and it goes on and you don't really get intimidated. And I've been a rodeo cowboy quite a bit, and that is really similar to being an actor in that it's kind of like you think about what you're going to do, you get there too early, it's never on time, it never happens when it's supposed to happen, and then all of a sudden you're up and everybody's looking at you. And you've got to just blank out everything else that was going on and just kind of, they talk about in acting, they talk about being in the moment. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely the same thing being a rodeo cowboy, of just, you can't be thinking, I've got to swing my rope like this or ride my horse like this. You just go do it. And acting, to me, is exactly the same thing.
Did you have any formal training other than... So that was it? So
I had no formal training.
So in the old days, the rodeo cowboys were the stuntmen. And now we're going to get...
Yeah, I'm going at it backwards now. Since I started acting on this movie, I've done a couple stunt jobs. So like, I'm going backwards. It used to be you start out as a stuntman and then hey, maybe he can act, and I'm going the other way around.
Well, I noticed, just watching the movie, watching you, which is really unusual for new actors, you had the confidence to let, you know, your face do all the acting. You know, there wasn't a lot of jumping around or anything like that. Yeah. You could see it in all the things in your eyes, and your expression told us everything, and it was like really minimal stuff.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, usually it takes years to get to that.
So, yeah, I give all the credit to Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro. No, it's true. No, absolutely true. On my way to the audition, or before I auditioned for this, I went to IMDb, and I just started looking at actors and directors and reading their quotes. And Martin Scorsese tells a story about in Taxi Driver, he actually ended up playing a passenger in the taxi. Right? Martin Scorsese, like the actor who was supposed to do it, didn't show up. So Scorsese gets in, and he said that the back of De Niro's head was the most intimidating thing he had ever seen. He said that De Niro could just do everything with the back of his head, and he said he wasn't afraid of the stillness. And I was like, okay. So I just said, don't be afraid to be still. Just sit there.
Well, it worked.
Apparently.
Thank you for doing that, and we're proud to have an Idaho cowboy become a big actor for Hollywood.
Thanks.
I love to work with these independent movies with young kids because they're enthusiastic and they're very grateful. You know, go work for some of these other boys and they don't care. They're not in the business of making movies. They're in the business of making money, so they don't care. So it's you get in with these young people. That's mostly what I've been doing recently, with working with young independents. I read the script several times, and so I knew the story. But a script is only a blueprint. The movie is the building. So you've got all these elements coming together. People think a movie is actors and a camera. No, a lot of other stuff than that. You know, you got sound quality. You got your soundtrack, music. You've got all these elements, and if one element is off or a little wrong, you don't have a good movie.
I was so surprised, and beautifully so, at how incredibly lush the movie was. It's a very moving, really good movie. The students knew to take their time with the pacing, so it's got all the emotion that often gets cut out or zipped around. So it's very moving. It's a really good movie. So that was not a surprise, because I knew when I got to Utah and about half a day in on the set that this was a bunch of seriously talented filmmakers. But it was I've been to so many screenings of movies I'm in where truly you just go, oh God, why did I do it, and why did I come to the premiere, and I'd rather die than be here, and I'm not going to be here when the lights go up. So this one I felt very proud when the lights went up, and I felt that we all worked as a team so beautifully. That was one of the things that made it work. You could see John's transition in terms of his relationship to my character. You could see Baptiste's transition, John's complicated feelings to him. It was wonderful. It was really great. And Barry's solidity, which he always has as the judge. And dear John Lithgow, who played my brother once about 40 years ago, I was dying to see more of. Yeah, it was really, really well done and a joy to watch.
What drew you to this material in the first place here?
Well, the casting director, Katrine McGregor, is a close friend and has also used me in other projects. And she just called me one day and she said, I'm working on this project and you should really read this script. I've got you in mind for a part. I don't know if they're going to, give it to you or read you or whatever. But she said, first I need you to read it. And she emailed it to me, and I read it, and I was just terribly excited, as all the other actors were when they read it, because, it's so wonderful to read what you know is a really good script.
How do you know that? What was it about this one that stuck out?
It's like any good book, everything about it falls into place. The writing, the dialogue was great. The descriptions are great. Yeah, it's a particular type of reading a script. It's like take like Chinatown. The first time I ever looked at the script, I always thought that like Jake Gittes only worked because Jack Nicholson played it, you know. And one time an actor in an acting class wanted me to do a scene with them, and they wanted me to play that part, and I said, well, I can't do that. That's Jack, you know. Only Jack could do that. But they showed me the scene, and it was really funny because there was a line where the John Huston character was saying something about horses and, well, they're always like that or whatever. And it was really inconsequential. And then Jack Nicholson, or Jake's next line was always, but Robert Towne's screen direction was not one to let it go. And when I read that, I went, I got the character. I got the whole character from that. And so reading a script, the character and stage directions are as important as the dialogue. And, you know, so that's when you know it's a good script, because you read that stuff too and you go, wow, that is really good, and it really informs the dialogue, which is always secondary in a film, you know. So you get the picture, you know.
We're always told as writers not to put in stage direction because actors resent that. But if it's the right kind of stage direction.
Right. Well, you know, like I said, in film, it's important because so much of what happens in a film can be with no dialogue. So you're reading the script, you need to at least see a picture. May not be the final picture, that's the director's job and the cinematographer's job, but you're gonna need to see some kind of picture. And everything in the For Robbing the Dead script, it just looked great. And because it was a Western, and I had never done a Western, but it's one of my favorite genres, so many of my favorite films are Westerns, that it had such a very specific moral point to it that I went, this is just a darn good Western script. And so, you know, I called Katrine and I said, yeah, if they'll see me, you know, I'd love to read for it. And so she called the writer-director Tom Russell, and you know, from what I hear, she had to do a little bit of talking to get him to see me as someone in a Western, you know, because everything I do is just so like urban. And he called me and he goes, well, let me just say something about the character before you go to the reading. And he said, everybody in this story has a redeeming quality except your character. He did. He said there's nothing redeeming about this guy. He's just vile. And he said we need one character like that in this story, and you know, because it's not so moralistic and sweet. And so I thought a lot about that, and we did a reading in L.A. And the first AD was running the camera, and after the reading, he goes, that's like the first audition I've ever seen where I need to go take a shower, you know. So evidently, Katrine said as soon as they looked at the tape, they said, yes, definitely, he's cast. And then, you know, I went to Utah to shoot it, and Tom just turned out to be this really good director, because as soon as I got on the set, and I knew he already liked what I did, and I kind of knew where I was going to go with it, but he came up to me and he said, you know, I've got another idea, you know, to take it one step further. And I said, what? And he goes, you know, this guy is so vile that he probably doesn't have a friend. So he probably sits in his little cabin and talks to himself. So he said, think about that. When you're talking to the sheriff, like, you're not used to talking to another person. So it was interesting the way the character almost sort of half talked to himself and half talked to him. And it took it one step further, and I just got very excited about that. So that's how I got in it. You know.
Is that how you define a good director? Somebody who helps you get insight without, like saying, do it this way, do it that way? Or
I mean, well, good directors kind of range in a couple of different ways. I mean, there's this famous story about John Huston and Albert Finney in Under the Volcano, where, you know, they got to Mexico and they were in their hotels, and Albert Finney, even though he's one of the greatest actors in the world, was looking at the complexity of this character and thinking, I need some help. And so I guess he called John Huston and went over to his hotel, and he came into the hotel room, and Huston said, like, well, what can I do for you, Albert? And Finney goes like, well, I need a little bit of help on this. And John Huston goes, no, he goes, I want to talk to you about the character. And John Huston goes, I don't want to talk about the character, Albert. That's why I hired you. And so, in his case, being one of the greatest film directors of all time, he liked to just cast the right person and let them do what they do. And then he would do his job, as a screenwriter, director, and so forth. But, there are other types of directors who get an insight in the character, and the thing that makes them good, and this was Tom Russell, is they have a way of suggesting something to you that makes you feel that what you're already doing is fine and could work, but, or and. Because, some directors will just put you down, and that just blocks you up and stops you and makes you worried about what you're doing. So the kind of director that will give you an insight, they need to be like Tom was and do it in that way where it's like, what you're doing is, we can use it, we can do it, and it's great, but think about this. And if it's something really, and it's also behavior,
Behavior of the director or your behavior?
Well, actors and directors both need to deal in human behavior, and I think Elia Kazan, I think, said something like, a director can give an actor psychology, but the actor has to put psychology into behavior. But it's also great when a director just suggests a certain behavior, It just makes it easy for you to just bring it in and do it right there. Because you don't get a lot of time, and especially on a lower budget film, you really, you're only going to have a few takes, and they have to move on. So to get that right in a couple of takes, they need to communicate really succinctly. And I remember Andy Ackerman on Seinfeld, when I had this one line to a guy that speaks Spanish to me, and he says por favor, and I repeat por favor just before I throw him out. Andy Ackerman is like standing off to the side, and he just goes, De Niro, and so I got it immediately, and it was like por favor, But you know what I mean?
Yes.
This was so easy to do. It was just, very uncomplicated.
I don't know if I've grown cynical over the years of seeing movies that I've been a part of that either haven't grown to their potential or just haven't been put in a position to be seen by anybody. And if something that you put your heart into isn't ever put into that position, it doesn't get the final little decorative strokes. This one got all the final decorative strokes, and it got all the special attention, the little tiny pieces that needed to be attended to were attended to, and it was like the perfect birthday cake. That the writing was there, and the right amount of candles were there, and they were lit, and it was the flickering lights and the singing all happened. And I don't know why you asked me, and that's just the first time I've thought of it that way. It felt like a celebration of all the wonderful years and moments and seconds that led up to being able to enjoy a wonderful story. And it was a wonderful story. I didn't feel like I was watching the movie to see how I did. I felt like I was watching a movie that I happened to be in and a part of, but was able to take the greater story, to enjoy the greater story, and the theme and the beauty that surrounded all these people. And I've seen it now twice. I've seen this particular version of it twice, and I feel like I could see it several more times and still enjoy it.
We're here with Katrine McGregor, who is the casting director on the new feature film Renegade, and also What was I thinking? Redemption. See, that changes so often, not even I can keep track of it. Which is just having had the premiere tonight in Boise. So would you like to talk a little bit about that and how that title change came around?
Well, I don't think anybody kind of at the top likes the name change, because For Robbing the Dead, which is the original name, was kind of intriguing. You hear For Robbing the Dead and you kind of go, what's that about? And everybody's afraid that Redemption is going to sound too much like a religious movie. But it is what it is, and I guess it's tested well. But it is opening at the beginning of April, all through the Intermountain West.
Had a very enthusiastic reaction here tonight. Now, in addition to doing a movie premiere tonight, you sandwiched that between shooting 2 episodes on one side and 2 episodes on another of a new project, a television show. Can you tell us about that?
I think that basically means insanity to try and do that. But I have been in casting and producing for over 35 years now, and I've met so many incredible people along the way who had these stories that I'm hearing over dinner that have never been preserved. And I started to think that this is a dying art. And I was very good friends with a lot of the John Wayne guys, and always swore that I would get them down to the Four Corners area and get them on horseback and talk about their days working with John Ford and John Wayne. And I didn't do it, and they died off. And so I will not do that again. So now I'm putting together a TV series called Defining Moment, where kids from Arts West interview celebrities that are, the kids are all getting into the arts, but we're not necessarily matching a musician with a musician. It may be a visual artist with an actor. And it's really not an interview, it's a conversation where the kids get mentored by these people. And it's wonderful because it's not really a show geared to kids, it's just that kids can draw things out of people that are wonderful. So we did 2 today. We did one with Graham Russell of Air Supply, and with Larry Thomas, and tomorrow we're doing Margot Kidder and Barry Corbin, and it just absolutely fabulous stuff. I was looking around at people in the room, and they had like their tears, they had tears coming down on their cheeks. It was very cute.
Now do the kids 10, 12 years old, do they know who these people are? The
12-year-old who interviewed Graham Russell had no clue who Graham Russell was, and so I sent him to YouTube, and he watched them sing I'm All Out of Love because I wanted him to learn a little bit so he could sing along. And he told me, he goes, I can't even get through like the YouTube video because the song, I just really don't like it. It's like really dated. It's like this weird 70s orchestration type stuff, and I don't know. So today when Graham started singing I'm All Out of Love with just his guitar, in the room singing to Aiden was just sitting there with his mouth open. So that's part of what I want to do too, because I think that in many ways we have a generation of kids growing up in the arts now who feel that if it's before their time, they don't need to know it. It's just, I don't know, that was before I was born. Well, guess what? Greece, everything that happened in the foundations of Greece was before my time, not by much, but was before my time, and still interested in it. So it's a total win-win situation where the kids get to learn a whole new generation, they get mentored by the celebrities, and the celebrities get to tell the story that they want to leave as a legacy of their career. Yeah.
So, and then how are you going to, is that just starting that show, or is that going to continue for?
We are, it would be great if it continued forever. I would be very happy. We will have shot 4 episodes, which we're going to use basically as a pilot for the series, and then hopefully get a sale from there on out. The closest thing to it right now is inside the actor's studio, but which is very different because it's more stilted. It's in a studio. This is on location in Idaho. It's a kid doing the interview. And inside the actor's studio is in 125 countries, believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe. So if we could get into 2, I'd be happy. Yeah. Margie will get it into Canada for us, and then we'll be good. Then we'll be in 2 countries.
What do you think, since you're in the have your hand on the pulse of the industry, what is the future of filmmaking in Idaho?
It's got to be up because it can't go down much further, unfortunately. I moved to Salt Lake in the mid-'80s when Salt Lake was kind of in the same position that Idaho is in now, and it grew tremendously, but it's a catch-22. In order for the film industry to grow here, we need to have crews and talent that a film can literally come into town and not bring anyone from anywhere else, the way Salt Lake has built up. And unfortunately, you have to do a movie to be able to train people to get there. So it is a catch-22, but that's why Greg Green and I are very committed to making films here so that we can get people trained so that eventually there will be a whole layer of crews that could be used here without bringing in any keys. And I think we have to prove ourselves to the legislature. I don't think at this point we're such a fledgling, entity, really, that it's hard for us to go say, give us money when the education budget isn't where it needs to be. But once we can prove that we're bringing clean money and a clean industry into Idaho, then it will turn around and we will start seeing incentives.
Thanks to your efforts. We hope it happens.
Hopefully, mine and a lot of other people's.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
Henry Heath's killed more men down in Texas than you ever cussed. And you'll be smart, or you'll be in a box. I shot men. Cut 'em. There's no forgiveness for that.
Mr. Baptiste, educated in Europe. Wife, one child.
I assure you, Mr. Clausen, that your brother was buried in a very fine suit, generously provided by Officer Heath. Well, that wasn't what he was wearing when we dug him up.
I just cannot understand how you can rob the dead for their clothing. I'm afraid things are not going to go well for you, Mr. Baptiste.
Me, a man ought to be left to his own self out there. You want any friends, you'll get that ghoul shot.
You gotta know a lot of folks around here aren't going to appreciate anybody that gives assistance to that man. They hate him.
Why are you taking him food?
You ain't caring for that ghoul in the lake now, are you?
We've all got a history. God help us, we do.
Well, as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap. We've concluded our party here at the beautiful modern hotel and lounge in downtown Boise. We've met a lot of the people involved in the new motion picture Redemption, which will be opening in the Intermountain West on April 6th, and I think it is quite a party. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you tune in every Friday night at 7 on TBC-TV to see Idaho Media Showcase, and thanks for coming to the party.
Welcome to Idaho Media Showcase. At Idaho Media Showcase, we explore all facets of media production throughout our beautiful state of Idaho.